So, fun fact about Taylor, I've actually been a longtime fan of Nudestix, which everybody knows, but Taylor and I were meant to meet at Soho House a few years ago for drinks and just like to get to know each other. And it never worked out. Schedules were conflicting. But then we actually met for the first time at Coachella, which was actually so fun. It was like at like a Revolve party and you're with your sister and we got to meet, which was so fun. So that's the fun fact of the day.
I love that fun fact.
Rolling intro. Well, welcome back to Poddy Talk,
the podcast where we should talk ourselves.
I'm Jac.
And I'm Tor.
And today we have Taylor Frankel, co-founder of Nudestix. Welcome to the pod, Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited. I'm so happy that this has finally worked out.
No, it's going to be a great episode. We have lots in store because you are a mogul, a rock star in the beauty industry. We want to hear everything. So maybe we should start at the beginning because I'm sure a lot of our listeners would be so curious to know the humble beginnings of Nudestix, how it all began, and obviously your involvement, your major involvement with the brand.
Yes. So, I mean, I'll give you kind of like not the super long-winded answer or not the elevator pitch. We'll kind of fall somewhere in between.
Yeah.
I started the brand about 6 years ago with my mom and my sister. My mom, Jenny, she's a chemical engineer and has been developing cosmetics for over 20 years. She started her career actually at MAC Cosmetics, another Canadian brand, developing some of their amazing products from the Pro Foundation all the way to the lip gloss. And then in the year 2000, she developed another beauty brand called Cover Effects when my sister and I were literally both in diapers. She started that in our basement. And fast forward 12 years, in the year 2012, she said, you know what, I'm going to exit the beauty industry, be a full-time mom, and just connect with my 2 teenage daughters. And during that time, she had no intention of starting a beauty brand, no intention of, starting a company with her 2 daughters. But through that time, she calls it her sabbatical / eat, pray, love moment. She got so inspired by the way my sister and I viewed beauty because she comes from the generation where it's all about more, right? So you had MAC, which was all about artistry and steps and color. And then you had Cover Effects, which was all about coverage and complexion. And then she recognized that she had these 2 teenage daughters that the only thing we wanted was less is more. And we wanted to look and feel like the best versions of ourselves. We didn't want to, pack on tons of makeup. Sorry, my dog is climbing on my table.
This is our other guest. We love a dog. Yeah.
Go. Down, Coco. No. She realized that we saw beauty in a very different way than her generation. And at first she thought to herself, is it just my 2 teenage Canadian daughters who have this less is more, vision or idea of beauty? But then we would speak to our friends. We would stand on the sidewalks. It didn't matter where we were in the world. If we were in Toronto, LA, Singapore, London, we would watch that everyday woman get herself to work, take the subway, take an Uber, do her makeup on the go. And we said, who's wearing all this makeup that you're seeing in magazines, that you're seeing on YouTube, that you're seeing on, an editorial, which is all about, this more is more type of makeup. And we said, no one. We're like, who's wearing all of this? And when we would walk into our retailers or, our local beauty stores, we recognized that everything that you saw, from beautiful imagery to, just even like the staff in store, it was all about, it didn't feel relatable or authentic. And that's where Nudestix really steps in, because we felt that there was a white space for a brand that, was speaking to this modern day consumer. And when I say modern day consumer, she can be 18, 35, 65, a girl or a boy, it doesn't matter. It's not necessarily about age. It's not about gender. It's more so about lifestyle and the modern lifestyle today, because we all have careers, homes, families. The one thing we don't have is time.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like what sparked what sparked Nudestix.
So interesting. So you had the background of your mom having the chemical engineer, the experience in all the beauty spaces.
Yes.
You obviously felt the gap in the market. What did it look like from having that initial conversation to like the first product being born / you guys starting to conceptualize this whole brand?
Yeah, so at the time, my sister and I were both in high school. My sister was 14, I was 17. So
That's
obviously
so crazy.
we're super young and we couldn't just drop out of high school. So my mom, you know, during that time was able to do a little bit of research and travel to, you know, different trade shows and collect different samples from different, you know, laboratories around the world. And she would come home and I would remember after we had this spark and after we had this concept, we didn't even necessarily know what the name would be yet. We just knew that we wanted this, you know, on the go, easy, fast, effortless type of beauty company. And she would bring home compacts and pencils and all these different types of products. And I remember sitting at the kitchen table and looking at all this product that she had and picking up a pencil. And there was one pencil within like all of these different types of packaging. And we said, what is this? Like, this is so cool. I've never seen packaging like this. And she goes, what do you mean? Like, pencils have been around for literally ages, like since
Right.
they existed.
But we're just so used to all the gimmicks and all the different layers, making things, you know, way more
complicated. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what really sparked that whole stick and nude stick concept, because, you know, we felt that, you know, there was this need for minimalism and simplifying makeup routine. And what we loved about pencils is that, you know, you can draw, you can smudge. It felt like finger painting. It brought you back to basics. And, you know, we always say that sometimes the simplest things are often forgotten. And that's what Nudestix really is. It's going back to basics and really minimalizing, you know, your makeup routine. So it was kind of we conceptualized the idea in 2014. We were actually on a family trip. And I remember sitting on an airplane with my mom and my sister, and we just had a moment because we came back from a wedding. And obviously at a wedding, you're like doing your makeup, you're getting glam, like, which is not, you know, the typical day. And we're like, wait a second, we need to do this. And we sat down on the plane, wrote a marketing deck. We got home, I think that week. And I think right away, my mom came back with samples. And that's when we started developing the concept and the products. And the inspiration behind even nude, I remember my mom bringing home all these different shades of products, and she brought home like pinks and blues and all these different types of tones. And, you know, she would say, oh, look at this, like it's a beautiful like pink. And we're like, well, no, that's pink. And she's like, well, what's wrong with pink? It's like a neutral pink. We're like, no, like that's great for you, mom. And if we would say it's great for you, mom, she wouldn't want
that meant
it.
no. Yeah.
It's like,
not included.
No. Yeah.
Not a part of it.
Too funny.
Yeah. So I guess that kind of does that kind of answer
No,
your
it
question?
definitely does.
It's so fascinating.
It's such an engaging story. Like, I don't even know where to go next because I'm like, wow. Like, and that must have been such a roller coaster for you girls too, because I mean, you're obviously young as all of this is happening, but it really thrusts you into that sort of entrepreneurial spirit at a really young age. Like, you're sitting there conceptualizing things. And did you feel like she was I mean, I'm sure she was, but a wonderful mentor in that experience? Because I'm sure at 17, you're not sitting there going, oh, I know how to write my first marketing deck. Let me like roll up and have a perfect pitch. Has that been a crazy experience, sort of having that mom figure, but also mentor figure?
Oh, like there's no way Nudestix could have gotten to where it is today if it weren't for, you know, my mom and my sister and all of us really putting our heads together to create, you know, this brand. I think, you know, I, as a 17-year-old at the time, obviously I had no experience building a company, building a beauty company, building a brand. So having my mom as a chemical engineer and having experience building a brand in the past was, you know, an asset that like no other, you know. I'm very, very fortunate and to have her. And I think combining my mom's, you know, experience with, you know, the vision that my sister and I had for this less is more approach to beauty, you know, really, I guess is what
creates the magic of what Nudestix is. And maybe that's the special part. It's like, it couldn't have been just you and your sister, and it also couldn't have just been your mom. It's like, you definitely needed the collective, which is so cool.
Well, and what was so interesting, I actually remember the day that you guys launched. Oddly enough, I was in makeup school at the time because it was in 2015, right?
Yeah.
So I was in Sephora, like going to pick up some things because my teachers had just like gave me a list of, you need these in your kit kind of things. So I was at Sephora shopping around, and that was the day that you guys just happened to be launching, not only launching like as a makeup company, but also you guys were launching in Sephora, which is kind of crazy that you guys had your first hard launch
that's crazy.
in Sephora. which I'd love to chat a little bit about that after as well. But so I'm shopping in the store, and that's the very first thing, the whole, you know, ethos of your brand is what attracted me, even just to the SKU. I remember seeing you and your sister's face, and you guys had this like beautiful, bronzy, natural nude makeup that didn't, you know, it wasn't this crazy Instagram glam, which was,
well, it's like real girls, right? Like, I think that's what's so nice about even today, what lives in Sephora, what represents your brand. It's still you guys, isn't it? Which is so cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think I get a lot of questions on, you know, why, you know, your sister and yourself, you know, why are you, I guess, the faces of the brand and I guess the models at the time. The first reason was because obviously as a small brand, you have very little budget.
Right.
Totally.
So we're like,
work with what you got.
Let's do what we can. My sister and I did like a tiny bit of modeling at the time, like very, very little. So we're like, okay, we can do this. And then obviously, like you said, we wanted it to feel real. The one thing I remember, we would walk into beauty retailers and my sister would walk by these beautiful images of these beautiful models with the perfect Photoshop and the perfect makeup and the perfect lighting. And she said, well, that's great, but like, I wouldn't friend or follow her on Instagram.
Right.
And we remember that so clearly because we're like, well, beauty should feel relatable. It should feel authentic. And that's even why, if you even think about social media and the entire influencer industry, why it's so, you know, why it is where it is today is because consumers at the end of the day, they want to feel like they can relate to you and they want to feel like they're, you know, they can connect with you and it doesn't feel unaspirational or unrealistic. And I think over the past 5 years, even you've seen the shift within the beauty industry of brands, you know, creating content and speaking to the consumer in that type of way. So yeah, that's really the reason why we're kind of like the face of it. But obviously over time, like in order to, you know, showcase inclusivity and diversity, and we're in global markets, like we're in over 30 countries all over the world. So ensuring that, you know, we speak to all of our different clients, yeah, is super important.
But I'm sure it's also so fun for you guys because I mean, why not be in the photo shoot of the latest launch, you know? Like, I just feel like especially because you guys are so in that millennial spirit, like we're all over Instagram, that's like what we're all doing. That must just be so fun to work on it, but on a whole other scale, because you're on these like major photo shoots doing epic things for great launches. I don't know. It just seems very cool to me.
Yeah, no, it's definitely cool. It's funny because I think it definitely seems a little bit more glamorous than it is. Like I remember our first ever photo shoot. We had zero budget. We were using a photographer that I actually met from like my, I guess, modeling-ish days. And he was actually a student at OCAD. And we used this like little tiny like photo studio. Like it was pitch black. It was like almost like you felt like you were in like a little closet. Like that was literally what it is. We were like all on the floor trying to get the shots. It was like super unglamorous. And then even today, like whenever we do photo shoots, like everyone's just like, it's just super fast paced. You're trying to get things done. Like, you know, you're shooting, but then you're also like directing and producing on the back end and making sure everything looks good. So but yes, it is exciting. I'm not going to say it's not, because it is. I mean, as you know, both of you, like just being, you know, in that type of environment, that creative environment, it's just inspiring and it's really exciting.
I think that definitely speaks to an idea that we talk about a lot at the podcast, and kind of it was the birth of Poddy Talk, because sure, we have these amazing highlight moments, whether it's those epic photo shoots, you're launching this new product, but people only see what makes it into that square on Instagram or that 4x5 photo, right? And we kind of pull back and see, oh, you're actually shooting this in your kitchen or in your bathroom. Like people don't realize how unglamorous it can be. Have you ever had one of those moments beyond the photo shoots where you're like, if only people knew what really went on?
You don't even know, like all of the time when I travel. So I obviously at this time we're not traveling, but typically like 50% of my role at Nudestix is traveling to all of our different markets, educating, meeting with customers, meeting with retailers. And the best thing I always get on Instagram is like, you're so lucky, like you get to travel to all of these glamorous places. And yes, I'm so fortunate and it's amazing and I love to travel. But you should see, I can be in a city, like typically if I'm away for a few weeks at a time, I'm in a city maybe 24 hours at a time. So I'm going from once to the next, I don't see outside of my hotel. So it's just like, you're exhausted all the time. You're jet lagged. You're like hauling like all of this product and all of like these like all of your suitcases, and you're going from one meeting to the next, to one event to the next, and it's like
you have to be fully on when you're at those events or at the Sephora launches. Like you have no time to be all energized on a bad day. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Like I'm going from like one event at Sephora to like a press event, and it's like you said, all consumer facing. So there's no time to just be like, I need to take like a rest or
5 minutes. Yeah.
Taking like a call, and I can like be in my sweatpants, or I'm like, you know, going from like one call to the next. It's like you're full glam, hair needs to be done, you know, you need to just be happy.
Rise
and
to the occasion.
Exactly. No one could know what you're truly feeling. You need to just be on. So
yeah,
that's
and I mean, I think Jac and I can both speak to that too, because that definitely exists in our world too. Like we can't show up to a brand event and just be like laissez-faire, and it is that sort of constant performance, which is kind of interesting, and I think something that people don't see about this part of the creative industry is like everyone is just always on, and that's a chore in itself, because we all need to take care of ourselves. Do you feel like this quarantine has given you a nice chance to reset? Like you more than anyone, your travel itinerary is insane. Like how many days out of the year are you typically gone? Like 200?
Honestly, probably. Yeah. If I were to count every single day that I was gone, I would say in 2019, it would probably be almost, you know, a little bit more than half the year.
That's crazy.
But yeah, and I was talking about this with someone the other day, and I was just saying how, you know, as much as this situation is so challenging for so many, and, you know, from a business perspective, we've had to pivot and be, you know, just make some really tough decisions. But at the same time, like I've learned to just appreciate this moment and appreciate this time and being with my family and learning how to be still again, because I think like even in all of our careers, like being in the creative industry, going to events, traveling, like you're used to always being on and always being on the go and always thinking, what's next? What's the next event? What's the next big thing? What's my next piece of content? It's always like, what's next? And I'm kind of enjoying just being present and being, you know, focusing on obviously what's next, because I think you need to in order to, as a brand, but just kind of enjoying being still and learning how to be still again. So
that's so
it can be a challenge with the modern day hustle that we're so used to. So it's definitely
both Jac and I have said the same thing. We're like, we're thriving right now. Like it's the craziest thing to just have a little bit of time for yourself to actually be creative. I know that seems weird, but we were even talking about this last week with another creator we had on, like having actual time to think about your ideas and create things. Like it's probably a great time for you guys as a brand to be thinking about what's next in terms of products and get re-inspired by things all over again.
100%. Like really, really also innovating the way we think about, you know, even marketing and branding, because I think for the longest time, because we do have such a, you know, large retail landscape and so many retailers, we're always focused on events and in consumer events and, you know, pop-ups or, you know, working with our retailers. I think this is a time to see, okay, how can we be innovative in a digital way? And how can we bring our offline experiences online? And I think a lot of brands have realized this, that, you know, it's so possible. Like even right now we're you know, doing this podcast where we typically do it in person, we're doing it online. And I think this has given, you know, us the opportunity to really think outside the box and be really creative when it comes to, you know, digital content and even like social content as well.
I think it's so interesting to see how adaptable we really all are. And sure, it takes maybe about a week or two to find footing or to kind of pivot, whether it's a campaign or a strategy, but we all end up figuring it out. And it's been so fascinating to watch not only brands, but other creators kind of pivot 100%. That and make it work.
It's been really cool actually to see everyone. I mean, from the only positive thing that will come out of this obviously is this, like the time, the creativity. Like, I'm sorry, everyone on TikTok is killing the game. Like, I love everyone's content. I
always say boredom is what creates like the most creativity, because you have no other choice just to get creative with what you have. So I think there is something special about having time to be bored and having time to like twiddle your thumbs, because that's sometimes what sparks the best idea. So again, 100%. If there's any silver lining, maybe it's that.
Right.
I want to chat also a little bit about, I feel like from the consumer perspective, I was someone who was buying Nudestix right away and kind of watching your career grow as well as the brands. And from the outside looking in, it looks like you guys launched in Sephora, and then all of a sudden it went from being this brand that no one had ever heard Nudestix before to the next day, every beauty blogger, everyone was talking about it. Did you guys have a specific strategy that was heavy on influencer marketing, or how did you approach that to becoming such a household name that you say Nudestix, everyone knows those sticks?
It's funny that you say that, because I speak about this with my mom all the time. And I think, you know, entrepreneurial life is that's kind of where you get that idea of glamour. But, you know, there's no such thing as an overnight success story. We actually launched in 2014 with a smaller apothecary retailer based in the UK called Space NK. They're also based in the US. Yeah. So they, Nikki Kennard, who is the founder of Space NK, knows my mom from a previous life. She never carried my mom's previous brands, but I remember my mom meeting her in the UK, and we only had lab samples at that time, like little pencils with just shades and an idea, like literally a marketing deck and idea.
Interesting.
And they're a little bit more of a household name when it comes to cosmetics, and you know, they carry a little bit more of a luxury and higher price point assortment, and their clientele is also a little bit more mature. Right. So she was looking to bring in a millennial brand. She's like, I love this. It's fresh. It's new. We need to bring in the younger consumer, the millennial, blah, blah, blah. This is like 5-6 years ago when everyone was talking about, you know, how to sell to the millennial customer.
Right. Millennial pink was like the thing.
Yeah, it was the thing.
Pre-Glossier.
Yeah. Now it's like Gen Z. How do we sell to the TikTokers of the world?
Yeah, totally.
But so that was our first ever retailer, and we had a 6-month exclusivity with them. And in return for the exclusivity, they provided us with unlimited press. Wow. So we had press events with them, both in the UK and in the US, so New York and London. And they hosted a beautiful, beautiful events for us. And that was really how we got that initial buzz. It was through that exclusivity with Space NK. Luckily for us, there was great press during that time, and a lot of press going back 5-6 years ago. It was just very authentic. You know, you didn't have to pay influencers to come to events, which obviously is totally understandable. But it was more so like everyone was trying to just get their foot in the door, and everyone was trying to meet brands, and everyone was trying to just, you know, network.
It was a different time.
Exactly. So it was a great time to launch. It really was. And timing is everything. So that was a great time to launch. That was also kind of like the year that Instagram started to kick off. Influencers started to become, that influencer industry started to kind of, you know,
expand, grow.
Exactly. So then once we started to get a little bit of buzz with Space NK, that's when we had retailers like Sephora contacting us and saying, listen, we heard about your brand. We're looking to bring in that millennial consumer. We'd love to chat. And really, you know, hear your story. And, you know, I always say, and my mom says this as well, that, you know, a product is, you need to have an amazing product at the end of the day. You do need to have an amazing product and an amazing assortment to create loyalty, to, you know, to bring that customer in and to bring that customer back. But the one thing you also need when building a brand is, you know, an emotional reason to exist. You need an emotional and a rational reason to create a brand. And our emotive reason was really our founder story, you know, our mother-daughter founder story, you know, our reason to exist, our you know, connection to the modern day woman, you know, the idea of easy, fast, effortless beauty. So when telling our story, and we were so passionate about our story, and we still are to this day. And I think that's also what really attracted us as a brand, obviously the product itself, but also that emotional connection to the brand. So we launched Sephora in 2015. That was US. And then we launched Canada afterwards. And once you launch Sephora US, every single Sephora globally, so Sephora Southeast Asia, Sephora Europe, Sephora Australia, Sephora Mexico, they all have their different head offices. So just because you launch Sephora Australia or Sephora US, it doesn't mean, oh, Sephora Mexico, no problem, we'll just launch you, call it a day. You actually have to pitch your brand to every single Sephora. So we actually had these like trade shows where kind of like Sephora conferences where we would go and present our brand. And then you had all of these executives from different Sephora markets, from Singapore, from Australia, from, you know, Mexico, from France, come in to see what's new, to see new brands that are coming into the US. And then they would, you know, you would connect with them, you'd pitch your brand, and then they would decide whether or not you're perfect for their market.
Wow.
So then from there, again, we would it was constantly telling our story. And then that's when we connected with everyone and launched globally.
Have there ever been moments, I mean, this is just a crazy story. You're really getting me this morning. You're inspiring me. This is amazing.
Yeah, you're like, I can start a brand too.
I know. It's so great. But
let me call up my mom.
Yeah.
But I love this. But then on the flip side, like, have there been moments of, like, I guess, like, kind of this is a few-fold question. Like, were there moments of nerves? Like, you're still in your young 20s, you're pitching to these corporate humans that are clearly like long-term industry people. Do you ever have those moments of, maybe I have a little bit of imposter syndrome, or, oh my gosh, I wish I was just in university and living my normal life? Or has it always just been like, guns blazing, we have a vision, we're moving forward?
Oh, I always have imposter syndrome. It's like no,
I mean, who doesn't? It's like, it's just normal.
No, but I think for me at such a young age, firstly, I think it's super important to have a mentor. In my case, it was my mom, who gives you that the confidence to have a voice. Yeah. Mm-hmm. She would always tell my sister and I, you know, you have something to say. You have, you know, such an amazing idea. People want to listen to you. Don't be afraid to share your you know, ideas, and don't be afraid to speak up and have a voice. And that was something that really impacted us throughout the early stages of Nudestix, because, you know, it allowed us to have that confidence to walk into, you know, a room full of executives, or walk into a board meeting, or present in front of, like, you know, the entire Sephora community and tell our story. And I think that was the one thing that really helped us. And then the second thing for me was, I always would tell myself, you know, I'm more important than what I actually was, because that was what would get me on stage. Yeah. I was like, I would literally, you know, pep talk myself before I would get on stage, and I would go into an event, and I'm like, okay, you got this. People want to listen to you. People care. Okay. Yeah. Even though maybe they didn't, I don't know, probably not. But, you know, giving yourself that almost telling yourself,
it's blind confidence. I talk about this a lot. It's just like having that blind confidence and having kind of a little bit of like borders on your eyes. Yes. So like what you're saying, like maybe they didn't care, but in my head they cared, you know,
totally. Like coaching yourself through it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. I'm sure the first time you know, were in Sephora Australia, or you did a whole Southeast Asia Sephora tour, like, I'm sure that first stepping into the Sephora, cutting open the door, all of that stuff, I'm sure the first one was the scariest, and each time it gets easier. Do you find that to be true?
Yeah, 100%. I think, you know, obviously with our first launch, that was super intimidating, and being so young in the industry, and, you know, being afraid that people wouldn't take you seriously was a really big issue for me. Because as a brand founder at 17, 18 years old, you're like, okay, well, who's going to take a 18-year-old seriously? Like, most people won't. But kind of standing your ground, and I strongly believe that if you have that confidence to you, and if you act confidently, and if you speak confidently, people will take you seriously at the end of the day. Yeah. So that was kind of something that I kind of learned throughout the years. And then, over time, I think definitely, you know, the routine of launching new markets, it becomes more seamless. You have a little bit more, you know, legitimacy. People know your brand. People are excited that you're launching in new markets. And it's not like, who are you? It's like, oh, Nudestix, like, so excited that you're launching. So that obviously is great. But I think you have to go into every situation as if it's the first time. I'm, you know, so thankful that, you know, my mom, even being an executive, she's always been so humble and so grounded. And I've grown up that way, I think, and just kind of like taking that, I guess, that personality trait from her, as you always need to stay grounded. You always need to stay humble. And whenever I'm launching a new market, it's always as if you're launching this for the first time, and it's brand new, and you have that same excitement level. And you do feel excited because it's new, but yeah, I forgot what we
interesting. No, you know, I find it so fascinating talking about age specifically because I can really relate to this. I think you're a 97 baby too, right?
96.
Oh, 96.
But,
okay.
96.
Yeah, I'm 22 as well. So same age, but you guys are the same year then.
Yeah.
But I can totally relate. And I don't know if it's a societal pressure or as a young female trying to be an entrepreneur, but it always feels like you're not the right age. You're either too young and you're like, oh, no one's gonna take me seriously. Or then you feel like you're too old all of a sudden. Like there's all these, you're never the right age, it feels like. It's so bizarre. But what I think is so interesting and inspiring about you is that it really is all about how you carry yourself. And like you were saying, how you present yourself to the world. And someone that I think is, well, you have this like class about you. You're so well-spoken, you're intelligent, but you also just carry yourself in such a way that you demand to be respected and not in the
in a good way.
Yeah. And it's super fascinating because it's something that you're not someone who wears your age in the sense that I would have no idea how young or how old you are based on how you present yourself. And I think that's something that a lot of people can be clouded by. And
it's
really interesting. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah. And I think, obviously I have like my work mode on, right? So like when you're working, you kind of have this certain persona that you put on, I guess you call it like maybe imposter syndrome or whatever.
Telephone voice. That's what I call it.
Telephone voice. Yeah. Literally, you kind of go a little bit deeper and like.
Exactly. Like ground your voice, get it nice and like strong. Yeah, there's all these like weird techniques.
Did you ever do any training or would you recommend? Because I'm sure a lot of listeners that are listening are probably thinking, oh my gosh, like how do you stand up in front of 500 people and answer questions? Did you ever have any actual formal training for public speaking or anything in that realm? I know that you did go to Ryerson, correct?
Yes.
Briefly. Yeah. So I mean, what was the training process to then becoming this sort of blossoming entrepreneur?
It's really funny that you mentioned that because growing up, I was like the most anxious about presenting in front of a group of people.
Really?
I literally would have a panic attack, going into a presentation.
And so many people do. That's very normal. Like
it's a very normal thing. And I think Nudestix has given me a platform where, because I feel so passionate about this brand and because I essentially grew up with it and and I feel so confident about, my voice within Nudestix per se. I have developed that enough confidence to public speak and to speak in front of, a crowd of people and not feel anxious and not feel intimidated. So it's really, but it's been honestly, it's taken about 3 to 4 years to really, truly like be able to go up on stage or go to an event or present in front of people or do a demo in front of people and not have those nerves and be like, okay, like I'm ready for this. So it's definitely practice. And I think I'm going to say this again and I always bring up my mom, but my mom does have that ability to kind of draw a crowd in. And when
she's so good at that. When I was at the Nudestix lunch that you guys had hosted and she was telling her story, it just, everyone goes silent. Like she definitely commands a room and it's amazing to watch. Like, I just love that. I love a good performance. Like that's just, I live for that. So I just, I really appreciate your mom's energy.
Performance. Yeah. And that's literally what it is, right? Like you're performing. So my mom, whenever, it doesn't matter if it's in a boardroom, if it's a Sephora event, if it's, even in front of like a group of friends or even, talking to executives, like a private equity, boardroom, it doesn't matter what it is. You're always performing and you're always on your A game. And I think she's taught me that and how to tell a story, because when you can't just walk into a retailer or walk into a boardroom and be like, so this is Nudestix and this is what we believe in and this blah, 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 and this is great. You have to feel that, you have to have that passion and you have to almost like sing it, right?
Yeah.
It's like this
singing the key messaging of the brand.
Key messaging, the story. So it's just like,
I love that.
But that's something that my mom would always do. And I think I've just taken that from her. And when I'm telling the brand story, when I'm presenting, like it's always, with purpose and
That's so cool. And then how has it been? So you and your sister obviously work very closely with the ideation, and I'm sure coming up with all the new product launches. Do you guys ever have moments of true sisterdom where you just completely disagree on either a new launch or a new product, or are you always kind of like kindred spirits in your ideas?
So I guess my sister, she's been, she's still obviously a founder, but she's actually in med school currently, and she's been in med school for the past 3 years. She's a little bit of an overachiever. Okay, like she's.
I think you guys both qualify for
Yeah,
that.
I think you do.
Oh, you should listen to my sister. She's insane, but she's not necessarily a part of the business from a day to day. We always bring her in for photo shoots or anything from a press perspective, but she's mostly, studying. But we do bicker. Like my mom and I, we'll have like conflicting ideas at times. And I think that's why it's great that we both kind of work in different scopes of the business and we both have different responsibilities, because I think if we were both doing the same things all the time, it would be more conflicting. But I think what's great about being in a business with your family is that you respect each other's opinions. And, I think at the end of the day, realize that my mom has been in this industry for a lot longer than I have. And so when it comes to high level business decisions, I do, typically, just allow her to just do what she leads. And not even allow, she just, she does it. Like, it's not even a thing. Like, you're doing it. Great.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right.
And then from me, it's more so like marketing, social, creative, and I will typically kind of like have that say. And if there's a conflict, usually it's a collaborative effort, and we're both very, appreciative of each other's, I guess, feedback. But
and then to that point, like, what was it like at the beginnings? Because I've visited your offices and they're big and there's many people walking around and working, but what was it like at the beginning, sort of building out that initial team for Nudestix? Because I'm sure, understanding your family run business, you are very conscious about who you're bringing in to work with you, because you already have such a tight knit energy,
Yeah. Well, I think when we first started, when we first started Nudestix, we had a very, very small team. I think there was like 4 or 5 of us.
Wow.
We had my mom, myself, my sister. My sister was, in it-ish. And then you had I guess our vice president, our retail vice president at the time, who's still with us. Her name's Wanda. She's been with my mom for over 20 years.
Oh my
from
God.
Cover Effects. So she was essentially like family to us, and she still is. And then, whenever we would bring someone in, they'd essentially almost become a part of the family, because it was such a tight knit group. And obviously today our team has grown, but that's something that we truly try to communicate whenever we are looking for new hires, or whenever we are in the interview process. We do say, Nudestix is like a family, and it's super important that not only do you have the skill set for this role, but also from a personality perspective, there needs to be a cultural fit. And again, it's not easy working with founders. It's really not. We have we're very strong-minded. We have very strong opinions.
Right.
So we have to communicate that. And, some people love working for kind of like the small entrepreneurial business that's super fast paced and very close knit. And other people are like, I do like more of a corporate structure where I can just log in, log out, call it a day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really important to us to find like a good cultural fit within the brand.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you have no, go ahead, Jac.
I was going to say, I'm curious. You said you were at Ryerson for a little bit. What were you studying at the time, and how did that end up looking?
Yeah. So, college dropout over here.
Hey, I think you're doing all right. So
yeah, I think you're doing okay.
Actually, I call it a sabbatical, because in my mind,
this is your eat, pray, love moment.
Yeah, this is your eat, pray, love. Yeah.
I started right out of obviously high school. I went to Ryerson. I was studying retail management in the business program, and I was there for about 2 or so years. And when I started Ryerson, I was still working at Nudestix. Obviously, we were starting Nudestix, and in my second year, I started traveling a lot. We started opening our global market. So I was gone like probably half of the semester.
You're like, see ya.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I wish that I could have worked with them and somehow done online courses and, worked remotely and or, you know, studied remotely or done my classes remotely, but unfortunately they didn't have that flexibility for me.
Yeah.
And I had to make a really tough decision and say, listen, like, do I want to focus more on my education at the moment, or do I want to pursue Nudestix and see where this goes? And I decided to pursue Nudestix, and I actually had to reach out to someone, an executive that I know who's been, you know, who's has a few companies, but I had to, you know, get some non-biased opinions outside of my family and say, listen, like, is this the right decision? Am I doing this?
Like, is this the right time?
Yeah, like, especially at the age of 18, 19, you're like, oh my God, like, my education is everything. Like, I worked so hard for this. Like, and then, you know, Nudestix at the time, it wasn't where
and
it
it's
is.
also, it's like stability versus instability. It's like, if you're in university, you're just going to class, you're with your friends, you're living your life. And then Nudestix was like this floating, probably more stressful kind of, it's like the risk, it's the entrepreneur risk, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that was kind of like so then obviously after my second year, I decided to just exit. I decided to exit school. We're leaving. Goodbye. I highly recommend education.
I also think there's a common misconception that education can only happen in those formal settings of school. And as much as I think school is very necessary for specific people, and it depends if it's what you want out of life. But I'm sure you had so much real life learning experience, and you were constantly learning because you were starting a new business and navigating this all, you know, basically from scratch. Do you have any moments that you're like, oh, that was a learning curve, that was the best advice I ever heard, or that was like, I had to go out and experience to learn it? Do you have anything in business where you can kind of reflect back and be like, oh, I couldn't have learned that if I was sitting in class?
Yeah, 100%. I think there's a few things. Firstly, work ethic. There is nothing like actually starting a business, working 24/7, grinding it out. There is nothing, and I get, like, you know, in school, like, I actually had, and it's funny that you say, like, you know, the misconception about education, because I think for me, like, actually my education journey was more challenging for me, just from my personality, and then going and kind of hustling and grinding and going out there and being with customers and consumer facing. For me, that I thrived off of that, and I got so much energy off of that, and I didn't care about the work because I was like, this is amazing, I love it, I'm passionate, this is great. Versus like sitting in a classroom or like studying for an exam was literal torture for me. So I'm not kind of saying like that's not hard work versus like,
no, but there's different learning styles for sure.
Exactly. So I think, you know, for me, it was more so like what I was able to learn is like the ability to just always be on and really at the end of the day, like work. So just work hard. And I think that's what a lot of people, I guess, might, people might think launching a business is so glamorous, where it's like, oh, you work for yourself, you have all these different hours, you can like, you know, wake up late or like, it's like super like flexible, when in reality, like you're, you know, responsible for an entire team, and, you know, you have to work longer than everyone else.
Things don't run if you're not running.
Yeah, you don't get your weekends at 5 p.m. You don't get to clock out and just forget about it. You're constantly on.
Exactly. So I think that was a big learning experience for me. And then I would probably say it's another big learning experience. Working with people is so difficult, especially when you're working with so many different personalities and there's so many different opinions that are floating around. You know, you have to learn how to manage a team and manage people. And I think that's a huge learning curve coming out of school.
That's hard.
You're going from, you know, just relying on yourself, you know, just relying on my studying equals this result, or, you know, my effort or my, it's directly impacting me, versus having a business. You're like, what I do today or what decision I make today impacts an entire team. And you also just have to learn how to just manage different personalities. And it's, it's difficult. It's difficult
Oh, for
to
sure.
work with people.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, even if you put it in the simplest setting, like in a collaborative way, if you're doing a group project in school, but then it's like that every single day.
And then you have your customers online.
Right, right.
Like, you hear the noise from every direction, and it's crazy, especially online. Customers, I'm sure, but also just like, feedback from people watching your Nudestix videos or whatever. Like, haters will be loud in any capacity, and those somehow always end up being the loudest. And it's hard, especially not to take it personal when it's your business that you've invested these 5-6 years, countless hours. It's hard to not take it personally. And that's something, I know I struggle with business as well. It's like, I care so much about it. So I do take things more personal than I should. I have a hard time putting that wall up and being like, okay, you're mad at this thing. It's not a personal.
Exactly.
But it's hard.
But, but then on the positive side, how much do you feel like new products and launches are inspired by the fact that you're able to connect so closely with the Nudestix community? Like, is it pretty tight knit? Like, if someone says, I need a super lightweight foundation, is that like, oh, we have tinted cover? Like, do you guys kind of think of that?
Yeah, I love the tinted cover plug. Thank you.
I'm obsessed.
This is sitting in my drawer right now.
It's my favorite.
You see my everyday drawer right now. Like, I can't even make this stuff up. And then my favorite, the lip gloss.
Oh yeah, the lip gloss.
I got Tor on it. I tell everyone about that lip gloss.
It's amazing. It's literally the best lip gloss ever. I'm obsessed. Biasly, but
that was not spawned. So
not spawned.
That was organically for me.
I think you will fail as a brand if you don't listen to your community. Especially now, consumers want to feel a part of the process of, creating a product, the process of, launching whether it's even like our recycling program we just launched, like that was based off of consumer feedback. I think, in order to sustain yourself as a brand, you need to listen to what your customers want. And that, so when we do launch new products, firstly, it's like listening through social media, the feedback we're getting from customers. If we have a customer that says, oh, by the way, I love your tinted blur stick, but like, can you make it bigger? We're actually in the process of like making a larger size. Right. If we have customers that say, oh, I love your brow stylist and gel, can you make the gel on its own? Yes. Like we can do those things. And I think 10 years ago, brands didn't have that. Right. So it's a really idea. Exactly.
You're guessing, doing market research, direct communication now where they're like, no, I do like this. I don't like this. And that's almost invaluable when.
Exactly. It's really exciting. And then obviously like traveling makes such a impact when it comes to developing products. So whenever we travel to global markets, let's say we go to India, we go to the Middle East, we go to Australia or Southeast Asia, or even in the US, Canada, like we have such a diverse community here, even in Toronto. And we're able to kind of get feedback based on even shades of different skin tones, what shades or what trends are available in each market. And that really helps, foresee like different trends. Yes. So it's super important to create products that are relatable to the different markets globally. So we try to listen to as much feedback as we can from different customers from all of our different markets around the world.
That's so interesting to me. What have you noticed as the big standout trends of, okay, we know that lip products, the more sheer lip balmy products are really selling in this market. Like, do you have any of those big markers that you can share? Because I find that so fascinating. Yeah.
So depending on the market, so let's just start with the US, and it kind of changes every year, and retailers really help make the trend. So Sephora, for example, they are huge, I guess, decision makers when it comes to what is the trend going to be this year. And you don't even realize it as a consumer, but it's like, let's say this year, everyone's talking, or even last year, everyone's talking about glossy skin, glass skin. That was really like even a Sephora animation that happened so this is kind of how it happens.
I find this so interesting. I'm like, tell me, I'm writing notes.
So Sephora, I'm just going to speak about Sephora because they're our number one global retail partner. So Sephora has an animation calendar for the next year. So let's say in the first quarter, they're like, okay, we're having the skincare animation. We're talking all about skin. Second quarter, they're like, we're having a matte lip animation. We're talking all about matte lips. So brands typically know this information in advance. And what happens is brands tend to develop products that are aligned with the Sephora animations. So when you see, for example, oh my God, why is every single brand creating a concealer right now? That's really interesting.
Do you remember when metallic lips were the thing? Every brand was launching those metallic lips.
I feel like it's 2020. Yeah.
We're in 2020.
2020. Where am I?
This has been a weird year.
Has been all like balms, like lip, like masks, lip balms. Like I've seen so many brands launching different balms, and I'm like, okay,
can you
Sephora?
Confirm, Taylor? Can you confirm?
I don't know, but
Sephora has been from Sephora.
It's just because like Fresh has just launched one, and then Laneige, like, you know, it was all based off, I think, the popularity of the Laneige one. Anyways, guys, this is just so interesting to me. Love this. Okay.
Torri, the forecast of trends for brands to follow.
Yeah, I don't know.
Every quarter. Guys, this is what's going to be the thing.
Right? No, it's true. It's like, it's funny how obviously retailers dictate trends, runway dictates trends, but I think retailers even more so.
Right.
So it's really interesting how, you know, it also dictates what product brands are creating.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I never would have thought that, honestly. I didn't know.
Where do you guys actually formulate your products? Are you guys still based in like a lab in Toronto, or do you guys outsource?
Yeah, so we actually never had a lab in Toronto. We have our warehouse in Toronto, where we actually, it's like our distribution center. So that's where we ship out all of our orders to all of our retailers globally. We also have a warehouse distribution center based in US, but so depending on the innovation and depending on the product, that's where we'll kind of go to create it. So for example, Korea, they're known to create the most innovative skincare products, most innovative, you know, cream textures that just look and feel like skin. So our nudies are developed in Korea, our tinted covers developed in Korea. I think those are the two main products that are developed in Korea. And then, for example, our lip glacé, such a beautiful, luxurious texture made in Italy, as well as our magnetic lip flush paints. They know how to make beautiful, luxurious, like lip products.
So you're really finding the places that specialize in those specific products.
Exactly. And every year, similar to, they have trade shows for everything, right? You can go to a conference for, you know, you have your fashion conferences, your beauty conferences. And so every year, and you have laboratories and manufacturers come in from all over the world, and they can specialize in certain things, whether it's maybe skincare, or maybe it's, you know, complexion, or maybe it's pencils, or maybe it's packaging. And so we go to these conventions, and then we meet with all these different suppliers and labs where we, you know, find kind of the best innovations. We usually do that once every few years. So that's kind of how we also develop our pipeline to say, okay, what are the next 2 years going to look like? And what's our product development strategy going to look like based on the innovations that are happening in that year?
Yeah, so you're always like years ahead of where we actually are. Right now, where are you guys? Like, are you in 2025 in terms of Nudestix?
Where
like,
are you?
What are you looking at right now?
No, not quite there as a brand yet. But we're kind of looking into we're essentially kind of finalizing our pipeline for like 2021.
Wow.
So 2021 is pretty much done. But things have shifted just because of COVID. Things that we might have had planned for fall of 2020 might have to be Jan of 2021, and then from there, like, everything's kind of pushed a few months.
Right.
So, yeah.
And then, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Sorry.
More on because I feel like, and I love hearing all about Nudestix. It's actually so cool, and I love hearing the back end about the brand. But I'm sure people will also be curious to know, because you are so young and you are an entrepreneur, how have you managed your personal and your work-life balance over the years? Because as you said, you're on the road all the time. How has that been for you?
Yeah, I think difficult.
Right.
Oh no.
It's not, I think, I try my best to make everyone happy. And I think over the past few years, I've really sacrificed kind of like my well-being and my happiness because, you know, I'm trying to do so many things, whether it's, you know, whether I'm traveling for work and then coming home, I'm like, okay, I'm coming home. I need to see my family. I need to see, you know, my friends. I need to, you know, kind of do, you know, say all my highs and, you know, make sure that I make everyone else happy. And I'm kind of at a point where I'm like, you know what, this is a year where I'm really going to focus on my well-being and focus on myself and make time for myself. And those people that, you know, are truly your true friends or and like truly support you and understand will be there if you don't return a call right away or you don't text them for a bit because maybe you're just focusing on yourself. So I think it was really difficult in the beginning, and now as I'm kind of like maturing, I'm like, okay, like what I need to do, and if I am my best self and I take care of myself, then I can be my best self for those people as well.
Of course,
for sure.
So kind of goes full circle.
And I think that's nice for people to hear too, because I think there can obviously be the misconception of, oh my gosh, successful brand, successful founder. It's like, look, we're all humans. Everyone's just trying to do their best. Like, just put your best foot forward and take care of yourself. Yeah.
It's kind of like the whole thing that you hear when you're on an airplane. It's like you have to get your like mask on before you help anyone else, and it's so true. It's like you need to make sure you're buckled.
That is a very hilarious.
Have you not heard people say that analogy?
Well, no, of course, but that's such a funny analogy.
You can't help the other person if you're
if you're
already dead.
We need the oxygen first. Come on.
True.
Okay, something that I wanted to actually chat about, and I can't believe it's taken me this long to bring this up. You guys did a collab with Hilary Duff, which I'm sure has been a personal, fulfilling.
Let's talk about it.
Business. How did this come to life?
So, okay, well, I guess Hilary started using the products organically. She's a mom. She's a businesswoman. She's like, you know,
the perfect Nudestix girl. Yeah.
Perfect Nudestix girl. We actually were connected with her through a mutual relationship. Our marketing agency down in LA, one of the founders, I guess it was actually her son who went to the same school as Hilary's son. So that's how they knew each other. They were like mommy friends. And so she, obviously having Nudestix as a brand, was like, oh my God, you need to try Nudestix. It's such a beautiful, great brand. Gave Hilary some products. Hilary fell in love, loved the products. And then Hilary actually expressed interest in investing in Nudestix. She's invested in other brands as well. And we were like, I mean,
totally. You're Hilary Duff. Yeah.
You know, only my childhood crush for the longest time.
Right.
But yeah, so she invested in Nudestix, genuinely loved the products. And then it was honestly just like a conversation that we had with her after we kind of introduced the brand to her. We had to meet her in person to kind of just, obviously, you know, as an investor and founders, you want to make sure that, you know, you have a relationship. And she was like, well, like, why don't we just make something together? Why don't we create a kit? Like, I would love to create a kit for all of you. I've never done something like that for a beauty brand. She even said something like, well, I invested in other brands, but like, no one ever uses me. Like, I want them to use me. Like, right? Like, use my
to be the face of a product.
That's so cool.
Like, you know, I want to support you. And so it actually was like I think we kind of had that conversation in like March, and then we launched her kit in September. And she took all creative reign over it. She, from like the pouch to the shades to, you know, the story behind it, she just felt, she's just like a super inspiring and creative woman. And
that's so cool.
Yeah. So that was kind of how that came to be.
Was it weird just sitting across from Hilary Duff? Like, were you thinking, this is a cool day?
Yeah, it was the weirdest thing. I actually went to her house in LA, and it was the most starstruck moment I've ever had. And
that's amazing.
I would cry, I think.
I almost cried. I was like heaving. I like told my mom, like, Mom, I was actually in Hilary's bathroom at one point, and I was like to my mom, like, Mom, I can't believe I'm in Hilary's bathroom.
Yeah. Was that where you guys shot like the video? I saw the video of you guys like getting ready and when you guys launched the product.
So that was like her closet / bathroom. It was insane. But yes, that was
the day.
That was awesome. But yeah, she's honestly so real. She's like super down to earth, super grounded, you know, just works really hard. And it's just a pleasure to be around and to work with. So that was really
I just love that news.
Yeah, that's incredible.
You know what I mean? Like, when you picture someone and you love them, you want to hear that. Like, you want to hear, oh, they're so nice and great to work with. Like, I love that for Hilary. It's great news.
Yeah. Oh, she's amazing. I'm obsessed with her.
Okay. Now, this stuff aside, you were just saying before we got on this call, you had just moved. You're in the process of moving. How's all that going? How do you find time to move houses when you're running an entire business?
So about 2 months ago, I had a flood in my apartment. So I had to It's okay. It was actually perfect timing because COVID hit, and then I was able to move back in with my parents, and it
Oh,
was like,
good.
And you're in Toronto, right?
Yeah, in Toronto.
Okay.
And they were just super happy to I guess,
Take care of you.
Get their baby back. Yeah.
Get their baby back. And now, as of a week ago, my place, like, they had to redo the floorings and everything. So that was done. And they just moved all the furniture back in. So I literally just, when I say moved, I mean, like, mostly, like, moved, like, my personal belongings.
Right.
And then everything was kind of already set up when I got here, which was great. But
good.
Yeah.
Oh, well, glad you're back in. That's, like, not a nice thing to have to go through, but.
Yeah.
And it was a weird time, but it's okay. It's all good.
Well, we like to end every Poddy Talk episode with a little bit of a game, a gratitude game. We play this every day in our personal lives, and then we've brought it to the podcast. So it's a game called Roses and Thorns. So we share 2 roses, something good that's happened either in your week or in your day, a thorn, something you just want to get off your chest, and then a rosebud, something you're looking forward to either in the near future or long-term future. So Jac, maybe you kick it off and then.
Ooh, okay. So I'll do the thorn first to get the bad thing out of the way. The thorn is that for some reason, I guess yesterday I turned off the heat in my house because I had the door open and was getting like a fresh breeze in. And then I woke up this morning absolutely freezing, and my house was like down to like 18, which I keep my house like 24.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I'm so cold. So I woke up cold, and I was like, so that was my trivial little negative of the day. A rose, a highlight would be, well, obviously today I consciously was applying all Nudestix because it was like, oh my God.
Thanks.
So I actually tried out, and this is going to be like a little product plug. Are you ready for this? So these are my collections in my everyday, all of my little, I love all of them. My fave obviously is Poppy Girl, but I feel like I use that for summer. But today I tried In the Nude for the time.
I love In the Nude.
Oh, so that was like a really pretty color.
It's good for like at this stage of paleness that I'm at. So it was a rose. I was like, oh, I really like this color. So
thank you.
In the Nude. Another love that product. And then another rose would be, I mean, yesterday was a really sunny day, so it kind of put me in a good mood. We've had like such horrible weather despite it being spring. It still feels like winter. So the sunny day yesterday, I went for a long bike ride. I was feeling really good about life. And a rosebud, something that I'm looking forward to is I'm looking forward to this episode going live because I'd be so curious to hear our audience's feedback. And I think you have an incredible story. And it's really inspiring because it really shows that there's no age limits, there's no barriers. And I'm curious to see what everyone thinks.
Love that.
Love it.
Taylor, who wants to take the talking
You
stick
take
now?
it away, Taylor.
Okay, so my thorn. My thorn was that my dog pooped on my new this morning. Twice.
Oh,
so that was
no. How old is your dog?
But I still love her. She's 5 months.
Aw,
cute. Yeah. And then what was my other thorn? Oh no, I didn't have another thorn. That was probably the worst thing that happened this morning, which wasn't that bad.
Only one thorn, not too much negativity.
Not too much
negativity. Roses.
This is my other thorn.
I've got 10 thorns today.
And then my rose, honestly, like, I love being on this podcast with both of you. I know this is like super cheesy and like, you know,
we love it.
But it honestly, like, I think interacting in any type of way, whether it's virtually, I mean, obviously mostly virtually during this time, just really gets me excited and makes me feel a little bit more social, and it's super uplifting. So I was really happy to have this call with both of you.
Aw, thanks. That's so nice.
Of course.
And you have something you're looking forward to?
Something I'm looking forward to. Something I'm looking forward to. Honestly, like, outside of work, because, you know, we talked a lot about work, I'm really looking forward to just like the warmer weather and being able to just, you know, enjoy a little bit of the city during this time. And I'm looking forward to being home for a bit longer and just enjoying my apartment and enjoying, you know, my home and being present. So yeah, I'm looking forward for the next few months, just kind of like settle into summer and be home.
I love that. That's so nice.
Yeah.
My thorn is that I'm gonna be a brunette by the end of this, and I'm just pissed about the whole situation.
Do you ever do an at-home like box?
I absolutely don't trust myself, but I've been DMing with my hairdresser, and I'm actually picking up color from him on Friday for my mom because she's a brunette, so he can actually do her color and give it to her because she can actually just do it all in one. And he's like, there's nothing I can do to help you. Like, yours is so complicated. Like, I will be a brown haired girl.
I didn't even think of that.
By the end of it all. But anyways, I've been thinking about that a lot. So that's the thorn. And then some roses. What are some good things? Jaclyn and I are in an Apple Watch activity competition this week. And right now I'm winning.
Oh my God.
So that's a rose.
I'm not wearing mine. I want to be Apple Watch 24/7 and like never takes it off. I actually hate wearing bracelets or like having things on my wrist because I'm always on the computer and it bugs me. So I only wear it when I'm like specifically going on a long walk or going for a run.
Yeah, but you're going to be frustrated competitively when I beat you.
I know, that's why I'm going to have to start wearing it. But my theory is that she's wearing it all day and like, moving. So it's not a true competition, but I am.
I'm not cheating.
That is
keep that in mind. Anyways, that's a rose. Second rose is what has been good,
It's hard to find roses these days.
No, honestly, having you on the podcast is such a rose. I mean,
that's so sweet.
I might even say this. This has been one of my like favorite Poddy Talk episodes. And I think it's because your story is very unique, and I love how close in age you are to us, because it just really shows like we can do it all as women. There's no barriers. Like, we're just out here hustling, and I just love your story, and I obviously love the brand. So
I feel like I learned the inside scoop of like behind the scenes business. Like we haven't had any guests that own a company.
No, I think that's maybe why too. It's like just a unique episode, and I'm really happy that everyone's going to get to hear this. So that is the second rose. And Rosebud will have to be taking you out for a cocktail when all of this is over, and actually seeing you in real life.
Can we please?
Yeah,
we will have to schedule something.
I need that.
I know. Me too. But this has honestly been such a pleasure. Thank you again for your time. We know this is a weird time for everyone, but it's just nice to inspire the community that we have online. So we're so lucky to have you on today. And
thank you guys.
Thank
you guys so much.
This has been another episode of Poddy Talk, the podcast
where we should talk ourselves.
I'm Jac.
And I'm Tor. And that was Taylor Frankel. And we will see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.